So I was a little bit surprised today when I started just kind of thumbing through your stats. This is your 8th Cup win, but I guess for when I was racing with you, I just look at you as a veteran. But your first year in Cup was 2020, and you were in a really awkward position with a team. I don't know that a lot of people realize what a short amount of time that you've actually been in the Cup Series. I know it kind of caught me off guard. And so how do you think your progression has changed from where you were then? And that's a whole different subject with a team that was going out of business. We'll talk about that in a minute. But where you were then, how you've progressed to where you are, and what do you think you need to be better at, to win a championship?
Well, Kevin, first off, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me that you have looked at me as a veteran. Going back to my start in 2020, yeah, that was a bad break for sure. And the thing that just really, I think, took away from, my stat book and my results the most was not having the practice and the qualifying sessions. So you never have a chance, and especially my first ever year in the Cup Series, we never had an opportunity to work on the car and figure out what I liked in the car. So It was just all going off of notes of what my teammates have done in the past, and maybe later on in the year you can use your one setup chance that you got to work at like a Kansas or a whatever the place had been earlier in the year. So not having that opportunity to figure out what I liked in the car, and then not being able to qualify for your position and your pit stall selection, it really hindered our races a lot. And then at the end of 2020, we got going a little bit better. And then in 2021, I moved to JGR and got with Adam Stevens, a new crew chief, and there was still no practice or qualifying. So it was a long process of learning what I needed in the cars to be successful. And frankly, we didn't ever get that opportunity until really it was 2022, whenever we went to the racetrack with Next Gen and we had time to practice. And you still barely get to work on the setups, but at least I can tell him like, hey man, I feel loose. And then you can make a change on the car in practice and go back out there and the stopwatches improves. And then you're able to build a little bit of a notebook and gain trust in your crew chief that, your feedback is legit. And if they give you what you need, then you're going to be successful. So, my first 2 years in the Cup Series without practice and qualifying, just it didn't allow myself and my crew chief to get on the same page as far as what I need in the car to be successful.
So did you know in 2020 that you were going to Gibbs in 21?
I learned in August of 2020.
Okay. And so
later on.
Yeah, so that had to be a relief. But what was it like? We hear all the news from yesterday with all the SHR shutting down, selling their charters. What's it going to be like for these drivers as they get towards the end of the year, not really knowing where they're going? Because you kind of sat in this position as a really young racer in 2020 you learned later in the season, but you had a team that was shutting down. What's that going to be like? What was that scenario like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I was literally texting with Briscoe yesterday about it and asking him the same question. Like, how is this going to work? Like, that you don't have a ride next year, but it's so early in the season. I'm sure other people, all the teams are already, I don't know how that works. For me, whenever I was in that situation in 2020, I don't even really remember. I think I might have had a guarantee in 21 to be in the 95 car at LFR. And then whenever Eric ended up leaving, they bumped me to the 20. But so yeah, I mean, I honestly couldn't answer that. I don't know what it's going to be like for them, and I don't envy their situation at all. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation, and you talk a lot about the young drivers, and we talked about the difference in the car. Are you good at taking criticism? Because I felt like I was criticized when the SMT stuff. I felt like I was going into a courtroom every time I came in from practice. Every time I came in for a Monday meeting or Tuesday meeting, it was like, all right, sit down. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. You can do this better. And I'm taking all this advice from most everybody that doesn't drive. How do you react to that? Are you good at reacting to that? Do you take it well?
I mean, I try to, but I'll be honest, Kevin. So I have a funny story about SMT and you in particular. So like everyone has their own style of driving, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you like to move the steering wheel. Every time I look at your data, like you're back and forth on the wheel. Your lines are very up and down, right? Is that
That's
fair
right.
to say?
I have choppy hands. That's the way I like to describe it.
Yes. So whether you're tight or loose, it very much appears loose in data whenever you're looking at it, because typically that, or at least for me, whenever I'm driving, I'm more of like a, hold the wheel steady. And honestly, this is what hurt myself and Adam Stevens trying to get acclimated to each other in 2021 was, my MO, my style. Like I'm not that guy that's just going to be back and forth on the wheel, right? Like I'm looking to hold a steady wheel. And if I'm loose, like I'm still going to hold that steady wheel and my right foot's going to come up, right? And then you tighten the car up, my right foot's going to be down more and my hands are going to be steadier and I'm going to go faster. So, yeah, the SMT stuff, I feel like I take it well, but it is such a knife's edge, right? Where it can beat you up mentally too, and really, hurt your driver's performance if you don't have faith in them and believe in them.
Well, you have the correct hands, buddy. You have the nice smooth hands. I have those choppy hands that everybody asks me why I chop on the wheel, and it's always a grip test. I don't know why. It's always been that way. But I look at the smoothness and the way that you drive the car, and I watch Kyle Larson this weekend race at Indy, do everything that he's done to go back and forth with the Indy car. And I feel like you're one of the versatile guys in the garage. You could go get in a midget. You could go get in a sprint car. You could get in the Xfinity car. You could go drive anything that you wanted to. Is the Indy 500, is that double ever anything that you might be interested in? Does that sound fun, not sound fun? Because for me, I was like, I don't really want to hit anything that hard in an Indy car. I don't want to find out what it's like to crash one of those things, and never had any interest. Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly love to do it. And growing up being an open wheel racer, that's obviously a race and something that I have always wanted to do. But doing them both on the same day, like I'm definitely not to that point in my career yet. And if I could get my cup deal going a little bit better, where I'm more consistent week in and week out and could feel confident enough, like putting focus into something as big as that, then, maybe in the future, in the far out future, I would entertain doing both of them on one day. But, right now I want to become more of a legitimate week in, week out contender in the Cup Series before I even talk about attempting to do something else like that.
Well, I think you do a great job at it. And, I think you're on your way to being a consistent winner. You already are. And that's the part that kind of frustrates me a little bit about some of the things that, like even in our production meetings, it's like, well, I think Bell's going to be in a top 3 today. Really, what gives you that indication? And I feel like that's some of the fans' take on who you are. And I know we've talked about this before, but I know it has to frustrate you a little bit because you always wind up digging out of a hole like you did this last time, or you're in the playoffs. And I truly believe that you guys can win 4 or 5 races a year. Do you feel that way? I mean, if you guys got it rolling and had everything in the right order?
Kevin, I really do. And the thing that's been a little bit disheartening and disappointing for sure is whenever we left 2022 and I made it to the Final Four, like going into the 2023 season, I felt like this is our year. Like we're gonna do really good. We just came off of a great playoff run. We're gonna be a multi-time winner. And then we didn't do it in 2023. And then same thing, like we go into 2023, the playoffs, everything starts clicking a lot better. And I'm very proud of that, by the way. Like in 22 and 23, our regular season wasn't great, but we were able to persevere and we performed when it mattered the most. And we made it to, the championship event. But same thing, like going into 2024, I felt like we have, or I feel like we have the team and the tools to go out here and be a 5+ win a year person and team. But it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm focused on trying to get to. Like I understand, the fans' point of kind of overlooking me because I haven't done it yet. And that's where I want to be, though.
Hey, race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News content and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.